Yo, welcome on back to another Pokemon Pocket video. It's your boy Ben here, and exciting because the meta is now starting to really rear its head, and it's wide open. I mean, we're only a week in, but now top decks are actually starting to emerge, and so we're going to take this time to go through each and every single one of them. So not only are you prepared, but you can take these decks onto the ladder and know the ins and outs of them already, especially when you're going to go against them. As always, we're trying to reach 10,000 subscribers before June, and with your help by hitting that subscribe button, you help out massively for us to be able to hit that goal. All right, y'all, with that out of the way, let's dig into it. And first and foremost, we're going to start off with this deck. Let's go ahead and take a look at 17 trainer I don't know, 17 trainer psychic, 17 trainer Giratina. I don't know, but what I do know is that this is a very strong deck. This is the deck that took first place in the RC Day tournament, which is exciting. I'm excited to try this out for myself as well. And so essentially what you have here is you have 2 Giratina EXs and then 1 Mewtwo EX. That's right, y'all. Mewtwo EX is starting to finally shine. It has a partner in crime here that's not just Gardevoir. You are running 2 Professor's Research, 2 Red, 1 Sabrina, 1 Cyrus, 1 Pokemon Center Lady, 1 Mars, 1 Dawn, 1 Leaf, 2 Pokeballs, 2 Potions, 2 Giant Capes, and 1 Rocky Helmet. So because you're essentially just running EX Pokemon, when one of them gets knocked out, Mars does get a lot of value here for getting just 1 card. However, if you want to switch out Mars, I think running a Giovanni to be able to attack with Psychic Sphere for 60 could be clutch in some particular moments, but essentially you're only running psychic energy here, which means that your Giratina EX is just getting going very quickly now. Because you have that additional energy to attach to Giratina to get it online much faster, especially with its ability that allows you to grab a psychic energy putting on it itself, and then you're just hitting for 130, sometimes 150, and then you're healing, you're putting a giant cape up, you're getting yourself ways to sustain here, and then your Mewtwo EX is essentially kind of hitting that 150, possibly 170 in the back, just vibing. So this deck is just all about outputting high power with your already high HP mons and then giving them a chance to do that. The Dawn here to get even some sneak plays in to the Mewtwo EX because you've been charging up your Giratina EX in the back. So all of a sudden you go from 2 to 4 very quickly. Up next is, dare I say, Arceus and Dialga. This deck is still pretty strong, and it is still, I believe, the best deck in the format. There has been some cases in which we've covered as well, where folks are running a Giratina in this version of it instead of the 2 Shaman and Mew. But a lot of folks like to just come back to this because it feels comfortable, feels like home, because you have healing in Shaman, and then you have counterplay to whatever big boss monster that they may have because of your Mew with genome hacking. Dialga here ramps your Arceus just is able to go ahead and attack it. This deck loves to go second, but if you go first, it is totally okay to continue moving on from here. One of the biggest drawbacks is if they don't start Arceus, or sorry, they don't start Dialga, but this is why you're running 2 Leafs here, so that we can better your chance of making sure that you're, by the time that Metallic Turbo is ready to go on that second turn of yours with energy, you can start attaching right away. We have 2 Rocky Helmets and 1 Giant Cape here, which is really interesting because of the existence of red here. Arceus goes down with a cape to a lot of things, like it goes down to a Giratina, it goes down to, it can survive by 10 HP to a Giratina, but it goes down to a Mewtwo, it goes down to like a Pikachu EX, and so red here has definitely made our Arceus EX a little bit more vulnerable to God's Bleed. The answer is now yes, so this card is really good and providing counterplay, but because of the likes, you can also run it in the Arceus EX deck as well. They are running Pokemon Essential Lady here for some extra sustain because this doesn't require anything. You just heal for 30 and you're good to go. You have 2 potions as well. So this deck just has a lot of options for you, and it outputs massive power, and with the addition of more healing and even more outreach right here with this, that is fair game. Up next, we have the Trajechodon Darkrai Giratina EX deck. So this version of the deck also did really strongly in this 1,000-player tournament. This deck, however, is running the addition of Shaman, which is a very interesting choice, and I wanted to kind of like bring it up and see what your thoughts are on it. Let me know down in the comment section if you play this deck. If you have, do you include the Shaman? If you haven't, if you don't play this deck and you've played against it, have you played against the Shaman? I think this is an inclusion that I think this person made as like a meta call for their tournament scene, so that way they can, you know, maybe possibly outlive like the mirror match or things like that. You know, take the drawback away from Giratina EX losing 20. Now it's actually only losing 10 per attack with the Shaman here. And so it's just interesting to see what people pull from. I would not like to start off with this Shaman, but maybe because everything else is a basic, it's only a 1 in 7 that you do. So basic strategy of this is Trajechodon up front, Trajechodon in the back, Shaman in the back with a Darkrai EX and a Giratina. You're powering up your Darkrai, which is dealing 20 to the active spot. Your Shaman's healing whenever your Trajechodons get hit, and then you're powering up your Giratina per turn. 3 turns of this, Giratina's online, ready to go. Darkrai EX is ready to go. You have your 1 copy of Leaf, you switch it out, and then you start attacking. If they take out your Darkrai, you march them, you hit them with the Giratina, you deal 130 or 150 or 170 with the weakness. Overall, this is also another very strong deck that features Giratina. I don't know, maybe it's the best EX in the set. I don't think anybody would disagree with me if I said that. Up next is a Charizard Moltres variant here that is also very interesting to see the way that they decided to split this up here. So this tournament also, or this deck did also really well in the 1,000-player tournament. This deck went 11-2. So you know, the pilot behind this played really well here, and so we can see the split of 2 Charmeleons. We have the Genetic Apex Charmeleon and the new Shining Revelry Charmeleon, and I think you evolve into the Genetic Apex one if you're leading Moltres up front. If this is a round where you're leading a Charmander up front, then you evolve into the Charmeleon, so that way you go into your Charizard EX, which is the Genetic Apex version, where you're hitting Slash for 60 and Crimson Sword for 200. They are including a Shaman here to get that free retreat off, and so that way you can easily reset if it is a Charmander that is up front, and being able to pivot between your Charizard EX and your Moltres EX for just 1 less energy means that they are able to get right back online. Energy is so key in this game, and when you have a ability that allows you to negate the cost of things, or like even just reduce it, which is like, you know, this negates a Charmander as a free retreat, and then Moltres EX is just a retreat of 1, Charizard EX is just a retreat of 1. It makes things a lot more viable and ready to attack once they are ready to go again. Other variations of this deck that you can run here is the Shining Revelry Charmander, which means that like you are attacking for 20, but you don't discard your energy here. And also just running a 1 of 1. You can use the Shining Charizard when your matchups are just like really lower, so that means it's only 150, so you can take the likes of Dialga, you can take out the likes of Arceus, and then you have this Charizard to deal with things like Gyarados EX or Gallade, things that can outlive that 150. So having a 1-2 punch here, I think makes a lot of sense. But you know, they went 11-2 with this list, so that's pretty awesome to see. Up next, we have a Darkrai Weavile deck, and this is really interesting because earlier this week there was a question of like, how do we upgrade the Darkrai Weavile deck? And I was just kind of like, maybe you add red, like maybe you change out the supporters, but like you don't really need to do much because this 6 core here is really strong. What's interesting is that we're continuing down this path where it's like the less Pokemon the better in a lot of cases, and like there's really only four basics in this deck that's like coming through, but you do get to do a lot here. And this like Sneasel into Weavile into Darkrai with Dawn on the first go is pretty sweet because you're able to evolve onto the Weavile, still hit them with the Dark Energy on the Darkrai, Dawn up the energy up to the Weavile, and then the Weavile attacks. I like the addition of red here, again, being able to hit for 120 with Darkrai EX, or being able to hit for 20 plus 90, 110 goes a long way, and then more so than you think. So I really like that a lot here. Running a potion in this deck is pretty sweet just for that survivability, and we're now starting to see the one of Giovanni. This has been a weird but like really cool at the same time, whereas folks are running a lot of EX cards, but because of red, folks like to run the non-EX stuff as well too, which like renders red useless, but including a Giovanni here, you can still hit those breakpoints as much as you need to. Up next, we have this Beedrill Scarda deck, which is such interesting, but this one put up numbers too. So like folks are just doing well with these new cards, and the focus here is using Meowscarda as a way of attacking those EX mons like we just talked about. And having 2 copies of red here really enables home that you want to deal with those EXs as soon as you can. For 2 energy, you're dealing 130 damage. With red, you're dealing 150 damage. And when it's weakness, you're dealing 170 damage once you include the red in there, which takes out those Darkrai's that's in, you know, the Darkrai Giratina Drudgeon decks, or the Darkrai and Weavile decks that we just saw, and that's pretty big. And then reaching for a 150 clears a Giratina and a Mewtwo if they don't have Capon. So this is like really sweet to see. And then for Pokemon to print out a card like this, for it to attack in the way that it does, is pretty great here. You're probably thinking, oh, Tauros, that's like kind of gone. But Tauros is just a basic one that can attack for 120, whereas like Meowscarda, you need to have your stage 2 ready to go in order to be able to do that. So, you know, you got to pick and choose how you want to play there. But what I do like that this has a type of advantage against Dark, which is like becoming more and more relevant now. And then Beedrill. Beedrill is just a disruptor. Beedrill is great. Discarding that energy, using Team Rocket Grunt to also make them lose that energy as well. You get to run Erica here in this deck. This deck is really put well together when it comes to mons that are needing to support each other. The only thing that I'm confused about is that this deck is running 2 stage 2s and only 1 Pokemon communication. So like how they find their pieces, they did well, so like they were able to, but like on those games where you like can't, like how do you reset that? And so maybe it's just having these still makes it work, especially because these are just one-ofs, and so you're more than likely to find these. But we'll play test it and see how it goes. Up next, we have the Gallade EX deck featuring Hitmonlee and Marshadow. This Gallade EX deck is awesome because there are a lot of Pokemon right now that need 3 energy to attack, and so this is pretty sweet. It's a great counter into Giratina EX, which needs 4 energy. So like the meta is having these big heavy hitters, but the big heavy hitters need a lot more energy to be attached to them, and because Gallade gets to scale up in that power, you get that for free. Hitmonlee is discouraging Gyarados players, is going past those Drudgeon players as well, and then being able to attack for that 100. So having them go through the Hitmonlee, the Marshadow, and then the Gallade EX, you soften them up really well there. This deck is including Iono and Pokemon Communication just to ensure that you're getting your stage 2 all together. So I like the chip damage, especially this inclusion of Rocky Helmet, just to make sure that no matter who Gallade EX goes to, Gallade can easily sweep, and with this 170 HP, it can take a hit. So that's really cool to have that together. But speaking of Gyarados EX decks, this deck right now is what I'm playing like when I'm not recording content or anything else like right now to go up rank. It feels really good here, right? And so what's one of my favorite things to do with this deck is obviously to turn 1 Misty. However, I turn 1 Misty on a Manaphy more oftentimes than not, because all I need is 1 Heads. And let's say I'm like trying to turn 1 like Misty on like a Magikarp. Who knows if there's a Gyarados around? You know, if I get a Palkia, then like it's only on that 1 energy, and then we just don't. So like guaranteeing it on my mana fee, which means that, you know, at least one energy is there. And then I have my basics from Professor's Research or Pokeball or whatever the case may be. And now I have at minimum 3 energy on the board before my opponent even played. And whereas I did an attack to take the win, I am setting myself up wonderfully through that. And that feels really solid. And it takes a lot for the opponents to catch up, focus and pivot and play obviously really well against that. But I think you put yourself in a really good position to be able to start off using mana fees, Oceanic Gift, for your Pokemon that's in the back. Alright, and then our last deck is an interesting mix of Rampardos, but it's like a Rampardos toolbox kit here because you have 2 Hitball leads, 1 Farfetch, and 1 Bar Shadow. You're essentially doing that same thing again. You can lead with the Farfetch to attack their active, including their mana fee in here. If there was a way to squeeze in a Geo so that way you can knock that out right away, that'd be pretty sweet. You have Hitmon lead to attack things faster to judge it on. You have Marshadow to attack things once one of them goes down, which gives you more than enough time to find your stage 2 pieces, including a Pokemon communication in here to get the extra reach into your deck for what you're looking for the Cranidos and the Rampardos. So I like this a lot. I was expecting to see the Lucario build to do better, but overall this is like a different variation, and to be able to see a different variation take place is pretty sweet. And again, just kind of shows the ingenuity that folks have when trying out new things, because seeing this would have thrown me off in a tournament. I would have prepared for the Lucario one, and I know that I can do things out differently. This makes me play differently because I see that Hitmonlee is up front and center, and I need to preserve the HP in my back because, lo and behold, they're running 2 Cyruses, and I can lose that mana at any point in time. So yeah, y'all, this is the metagame for this week. I hope you're excited about these decks that are being shown. Please let me know once again down in the comments what deck of these are your favorite, which one do you want to run. And if you're not running any of these, let me know what has been your luck on the ladder been like. What decks are you playing, and what decks would you do you hope to see land on our Metaport for next week? Until next one, y'all, peace.